How's it going? This is Brandon with Tier 1 Transmissions. We're going to talk about coolers, cooler setups, heat exchangers, which should be a pretty touchy topic for some of you. We're going to kind of focus on the 3rd gen trucks. It applies to all the platforms for sure. We just have the 3rd gen Mishimoto direct fits here. Same thing for the 13 to 18s. You 10 to 12 guys are kind of stuck because you have that terrible trans cooler AC condenser combo, but that'll help us transition over into our Duramax Aux Cooler setups. Transmissions operate with a ton of heat. When your converter's not locked, it's just generating heat. When you're towing, when you're getting going towing, when you're pulling grades in lower gears and you don't have the converter locked, that's when you're generating the most heat, right? Once it gets hot, it usually stays hot. It's a lot harder to get it cool than to keep it cool. These Mishimoto drop-in coolers, whether it be for the 3rd gen, the 4th gens, Powerstrokes, the Duramax trucks, they're really good units. Mishimoto, at least for the 3rd gens, gives you these junk rubber lines that we don't use because they will blow off, especially with high pressure transmissions, high pressure valve bodies, that sort of stuff. With the heat, the hose tends to flex and get soft and push off with the hose clamps. What we do on these is actually remove the fittings on the end. We do an AN line setup that'll tie right into your factory lines, factory hard lines, with another AN or tube adapter, so you don't have to worry about that. That's a really good way to just drop in, get it in there, get an upgraded cooler. They also have a thermostat in them, so you can take that thermostat out so you have full cooler flow all the time. We tend to do that here in Arizona. Obviously it's hot, even in the winter months, you're 80, 85, 90 degrees sometimes. And if you're leaving town here, you're going uphill 9 times out of 10. You're going up to 17, it's a straight grade all the way up to Sunset Point, and it's not any cooler than it is here in the valley. That's a really easy way, drop in, bolt in, and you're good. Especially if you have cooler contamination from a failed trans already. This is a really easy way, especially if you're doing your own install. Put one of these in there, don't have to worry about hot flushing the cooler, and you're upgrading at the same time. We like to do them, we do them quite a bit here. The other side of that, depending on what you've got going on the truck, is we have our Aux coolers with these Duramax 40-row coolers. These are all AN lines as well. We use the fire pump brackets, they're a really nice setup. We have painless wiring kits for them. Again, all AN lines, tags in. We do a thermostat switch on them so that fan will cycle on and off, but you can wire these however you want. We get customers that want them on whenever the key's on. That's how I prefer it. As far as I'm concerned, you can't run a trans too cool, so I like these to be on keep power, but we do temp switches as well. Going to heat exchangers, that's a big topic on these trucks. The 3rd gens, 5.9s, they can be a pain. But it's not the heat exchanger that's a piece of crap. Everybody says, get rid of the heat exchanger, all it does is adds heat. You think a little bit about thermal dynamics, yeah, there's engine coolant in it, right? And the idea behind that is to get the trans up to temp faster. The other thing it does is that's coming directly out of the converter, so that is your hottest fluid. It's going right into that, and the coolant on your engine side is gonna draw a ton of heat out of that just by design. That's exactly what it's made for. On top of getting it up to temp faster, it will pull that big chunk of heat out before it even gets to your cooler. People say delete them, get rid of them, they're a piece of junk. They can be. What's usually the problem though is coolant service. Nobody does it. If you think heat exchangers are a pile of garbage, you're probably not doing your maintenance. When coolant becomes broken down and old and you haven't changed it in 10, 15 years, 100,000 miles, it becomes corrosive. That little pancake stack cooler in there is going to break down. Yeah, there's no signs. The only sign is once it fails. Once it fails, the trans is gone. You have to replace all the frictions in it. We've had guys, they leave them sit for 6 months where they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and now you have rusted parts inside on top of it. I prefer to leave it in there, stay up on your coolant service, make sure you're swapping it out, doing your flushes, doing whatever you need to do to make sure that your cooling system is healthy and clean, and you won't have a problem. If you get rid of the heat exchanger, especially here in Arizona, and you just have a stock cooler, you'll probably be fine driving around town, unloaded, even up to the mountain. As soon as you put a trailer on that thing in the dead of summer, I think it's been over 110 every day for a couple weeks now. Jade's over here fanning herself right now, and it's not even 8 o'clock. In my opinion, leave it in place. It's going to pull out all the temperature it can if the trans is under operating temperature of the engine. Thermodynamics, it's clear as day, it's very easy, you can Google that. Anything over engine temperature, yeah, it's going to put heat into your cooling system, but it's going to drag that out of it. I don't mind leaving them in there, but I also take care of my shit a little bit better than some guys do. If you only have a stock cooler, do not delete the heat exchanger. You will run hot as soon as you hook a trailer up to it. We've seen guys get away with just running this if they're not towing heavy and they know how to drive to the truck, they're not on 37s with stock gears and all that sort of deal. If To get rid of it, I'd suggest at least upgrading to the Mishimoto, if not adding the Aux Cooler as well. Really depends on the usage of the truck though. You get guys that, oh yeah, I tow all the time. Well, you tow 8,000 to 10,000 pounds. Not really a big deal. We can manage that. That's, you know, these trucks will do that all the time. You get guys out here, especially 43-foot toy hauler, they've got a 4-seat Razor or K&M in it, and they're heading straight up the 17 to go up to Flagstaff area. It's a long grade and it's hot. We like to do Aux Coolers on those. Same thing if you're heading east, going up the rim. Huge grades, lots of heat. If you're having those issues, these are our go-tos. The 13 to 18 trucks and even the 19 plus, they do have that thermostatic bypass on the side. That thing is not bad in its own right. It's only bad when it fails. I've had trucks that had the stock thermostat in it for 100,000 miles and it ran at 170 degrees, loaded, unloaded, whatever. But when they fail in a more closed than open position, you're going to start getting hot. We do offer those. We offer the PPE thermal bypass for the 13 to 18 and the 19 plus. Those do help prevent the failure. A lot of guys, yeah, they run cooler, and they do. My 4th gen actually does run about 150, 160 normally with the bypass in it. These are all options. When you call in and you're talking about cooler options, if your trans is getting hot, if you're worried about it, these are the directions we're gonna go. But we're gonna ask what you use it for, what issues you're currently having. Gearing, tires, all play into it. There's a ton of variables on these trucks. Every one of them is different. So we have recipes for different setups. Give us a call today, talk about what you got going on. Let's get you set up with either a drop-in or an Aux Cooler or both, and keep your temperatures down and keep you going down the road this summer. Thank you guys.